So this is consequences part 2. And we left off talking about different types of timeout. So the last thing we're going to do is something that we do in our Incredible Years parents groups that are 16 and 18 weeks long. And basically, what we do is on the board we draw a grid. And so go back to algebra class, think of x and y axes and the positive and negative quadrants and all that fun stuff. And remember what that grid looks like. So in the top half, we write timeout versus spanking, and we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of each. So for timeout, there are obviously some pros to this. Using timeout over spanking is going to teach a child self-control. It is also going to make sure that there is no chance of abuse. The child can't be physically harmed or have a mark on his or her body, can't be emotionally harmed by timeout, or by timeout, can be through spanking. And finally, timeout can give the child and the parent separate time to calm down. I have one parent on my caseload right now who tells me that timeout is good for her. It gives her time to calm her body down and not just her daughter's. So I know that that can be difficult for those of us with quick tempers, and I'm one of them too. So yeah, it is. It's very helpful for that. Just as there are pros for timeout, there are pros for spanking. Spanking for the pros, it's very quick. It's very portable. You can spank a child pretty much anywhere. Even if you're in public, you can take a child to a more private place like a restroom or a car to spank a child. And in fact, it's very socially acceptable to spank your child. Nobody is going to think that you're a bad parent. Nobody is going to think that your child is out of control. So because of those reasons, it is very good, quick, portable, those kind of things. Also in spanking, the message is very clear that was a non-acceptable behavior. There was consequence. It was immediate. All those things. And finally, another pro to spanking is that the parent is viewed as the authoritative parental unit in the parent-child relationship. So the parent makes it very clear, I'm in charge, you do what I say, and what I say goes. So those are the pros to timeout and the pros to spanking. Obviously, there are some cons to both of them too. So for timeout, one of the biggest setbacks with timeout is that it is difficult to do outside of the home. So not so portable in a public setting like a grocery store or even church. It can feel awkward, or even at a family's house. Sometimes families think that you should spank your child, and that should be the only thing that you should do. And so if you feel criticized or you're not comfortable, it's going to be very difficult to put your child in timeout. Sometimes just the comforts of home, like maybe having a specific chair or specific corner, or maybe you do timeout in the child's bedroom, wherever you do the timeout, that is a good, safe place for the child. That can make a difference elsewhere too, for the child and for you as a parent. Another thing with timeout is that it does take a lot of time. It's right in the name. With timeout, you have to be dedicated beyond just the minutes per age of your child, because if your child resists going to timeout, that's going to take some time. If you're doing compliance training, you might as well block off a few hours. Especially if you have a defiant child, sometimes they really like to test and push your buttons, and some of them will see who's going to win, you or them, when it comes to endurance. Another thing with timeout is that consistency is required. It is not an option. So if you're the type of person who will follow through with something a few times and then begin to slack off, or maybe not follow through with it at the extent that it needs to be, or follow through with it but let some things slide, kids are going to definitely pick up on that. And they will manipulate it and use it to their advantage. I've had kids on my caseload tell me, well, Mommy used to use the timer, but now she just puts me in there for a minute or two and I can get out. And so, just the stories that you hear, so I know that kids like to manipulate that situation, just like they like to manipulate other things. So anyway, the cons to spanking are pretty clear, and this is probably the biggest reason that Incredible Years doesn't endorse spanking. Spanking can lead to abuse. That's the biggest thing. Oftentimes, parents don't have the self-control to stop themselves when they're hitting or spanking their child. And if parents are out of control when they're angry, we're setting a really bad example of being a really bad model for our children. That's another reason that Incredible Years doesn't encourage spanking. If we're teaching our children that it's okay for us to be aggressive when we're angry, then obviously the child's going to think it's okay for them to be aggressive when they're angry. Another con to spanking is that the child doesn't learn self-control. Impulse control, self-control, very, very difficult for young children. This is why they're all little squirmy worms in their seats. It's difficult for them to sit there, focus, concentrate, sit still, listen, do all those things that are required of them. And finally, some children develop a tolerance to spanking, and so spanking can become ineffective because of that. Okay, so now let's go back through those lists and let's think of benefits for the child or benefits for the parent. So, pros of timeout versus the pros of spanking. Teaches self-control for timeout. Well, that definitely benefits the child. No chance of abuse. Well, that pretty much benefits both. I don't think I know any parent who wants to abuse their child, and I don't think I know any child that wants to be abused. So that's both. It benefits both of them. And the child and the parent can calm down. I would say that benefits both of them too. Now, the pros to spanking, it's quick. There's debate over this. Some children will say that they prefer the quick punishment. In reality, this is a the spanking being quick is a benefit for the parent. They don't have to put a lot of time, thought into it, energy. It's just, you're done. So that's a benefit for the parent. The message is clear. The child knows that this is unacceptable behavior. That can definitely be going both ways. For children that struggle with limits, that can be helpful for them. Mostly that is a benefit for the parent, though. And finally, the parent is viewed as the authoritative figure. Definitely a benefit for the parent. So weighing the sides, we see that timeout is definitely more beneficial for the child, and spanking is definitely more beneficial for the parent. Now the cons. It's difficult to do outside of the home. We don't have to go through the pros and the cons there. So anyway, back to the pros and cons the pros of spanking versus timeout. It's very easy to see that for the parents to sacrifice and to say, this is what is best for you, and I'm going to, do timeout because it's what's best for you, is just giving your child the most awesome gift, just benefiting and just, helping them develop skills that they need. It's not that spanking is not doing that. It's just that the benefits are definitely more there for the parent. So anyway, if you have any questions about this, feel free to comment on the blog. I will do my best to answer via the internet, but I love all of you and I see all of you in person, so I know that if you have any questions, I can address them face to face. Alrighty, friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.